welcome to the Mentorship podcast, your pocket guide to mindset, motivation and mentorship.
So Nina, we've got Josh Gallen here today, coming up from Brighton, and I'm really excited to hear from him today because he's a guy that whenever we see him speak and at meetings, he's super confident, super charismatic, but I think the value is incredible. And he's often even though he's not part of the Men's Prize group, we often ask this guy to come along to meetings because we know he's going to be a huge asset to the team and people want to hear from him. So I think we're going to have our notepads full up after this one.
Yeah, because I really only know him from those situations. So I know his reputation, which is great, and a lot of people speak very highly of him, but I've not really spent loads of time with him and know his background. So I'm interested to find out who is Josh.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Hi, Nina here. Quick disclaimer, apology. I've got a terrible cold for a few of these episodes, so if you hear me coughing, spluttering and interrupting guests with their answers, I'm sorry. Enjoy the show. Josh, welcome to the Men's Prize podcast. Thanks very much for being with us today.
That's great to be here.
Travelling all the way up from Brighton this morning?
Yeah, bit of diversion on the way, but got here early still, which is good.
Yes, well, you work with Mike quite closely, and he was saying that one of his things is giving yourself enough time. So despite the challenges, you're still very, very prompt.
Good. Yeah, well, it's part and parcel, I guess, working with Mike as well. So.
Exactly, it's rubbed off. So, Josh, I've met you at various meetings. You've been part of the direct sales industry for how many years now?
So literally 10 years in May just gone, so just shy of a third of my life.
A decade. Yeah. Very nice. Just shy of a third. Yeah. That's how you're measuring it. So literally. For yourself, because some people may know who you are, but for those that don't, how did you get into direct sales, and what was the journey for you?
Yeah, so probably like a lot of people, completely innocent in a sense that I had no real intention of doing sales-based related work long term. It's quite interesting, to be fair, because it led on to off the back of my interest of going to university, doing sports science, and I was always fascinated by what made athletes elite. Okay. And as a result of going down that path and going down that line of education, the thing that really incited me and excited me was the mindset of athletes. So after doing all that and doing an internship with professional football teams, I had an interest in pursuing the psychology route a bit more, and was going to do a master's. Masters at Sussex Uni in psychology, and wanted to get myself into something where I can learn some skills.
And money.
Well, literally hit on that 100%. Make some money over the summer. And ironically, a lot of the stuff I was reading to prep myself for the course was all about soft skills and the importance of soft skills. And I was like, might as well go into that route and sales and dealing with people, and that's always a natural, environment where you're going to learn them skills. And I thought it looked good on my CV once I did my masters, and then I literally started, had the benefit of working with some great people, deferred my place at university, and then never went back, and that was that. So that's how I fell into it. Yeah.
And was football the sport that particularly interested you? Is that where you wanted to?
No, it's basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. So I had a lot of fortune of getting to rub shoulders with people that were professional in their sports. Yeah. So that almost, from a live environment perspective, really interested me in terms of getting to know what makes people tick. My dissertation was based on doing a lot of interviews with elite athletes, and they'd represent their country and stuff like that at different levels. Yeah. And the experience of working with Brentford Football Club was to be able to leverage off of the education part. So it wasn't naturally football, it was more getting in the environment, working with academy players, learning about motivational climates and all this type of fancy stuff that comes with the territory. And so that was where it went from. But it was more basketball originally. Yeah. That was my sport that I still have a passion for today. So yeah.
And have you translated that interest in the elite sports people into now elite salespeople?
So I think the thing that really got me, I don't have to say sold on being in sales as such or in the industry, but was the fact of the self-improvement, self-development, understanding thought processes, decision-making. Yeah. And it was really, the thing that really resonated with me was the stuff I was reading about off my own interest, I was seeing in a live environment. Right. So that's where the interest in what made people elite in sport. I was actually really then interested in what made people elite just in anything, because there's going to be crossovers, there's going to be, skills that transfer over, traits, and I felt like the industry as a whole was actually a bit of an educational platform where I could actually, learn these skills, interact with these skills in a live environment, and I guess develop myself in the process.
Yeah. Because I was chatting to a candidate the other day and saying about how it's interesting that there aren't any degrees in sales and like no practical teachings really. I mean, maybe there's probably a really niche course in a university somewhere, but even though it's a skill, it's not really taught most places. But you saw lots of crossovers from sport. That's interesting.
Yeah. No, I actually believe, like I had a conversation with this with people in my business recently, that I genuinely believe the level of education people get in what we do, if done properly, and if you look after people and you have, the right principles.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's a way, or I guess I guess there's definite credential in what we do, because it crosses over to economic value. And for people that study business or are interested in that side of life, soft skills unfortunately isn't well taught at university, because I believe, again, I'm not against university. I went to university, so I don't regret going. But it's in an academic forum, in an institution, soft skills, emotional intelligence. It's not the environment for that. No. I believe. So
it's funny. We've got a guy in our office that yesterday he said to me, Rob, he's been with us for a really short space of time, right? And he said, I've learned more in the space I've been with Red 7 than I have in my whole 3 years university.
Was he doing a business course or something?
I don't think it was a business course, but he was just so positive about the kind of, I think when it comes to communication skills, kind of problem solving, mentality based information. He said, he's amazed by what he's learned in a short space of time, and I think that's I think that's the sales industry as a whole, really. So you've obviously can explain that you've had a real interest in elite sport and what makes people tick and the psychology behind it. So you're obviously you've got a great student mentality coming into the industry. Did that make it quite easy for you then? Did you kind of start with a bit of a bang? Did you kind of fly off the bat?
Yeah. So ironically, for me, there's two areas, isn't there, really? Like the performing side individually in terms of sales and X, Y, and Z, and then there's being able to deal with people, the logistics of being involved in business. And for me, I was so keen to do well, it actually inhibited me a little bit, because I was so keen to do well, keen to get the most out of what I was doing. And what I had to realise is, and I guess it's probably reflective of my personality, like what has allowed me to do well in other fields was very much just graft it out, work hard on other people, all that type of stuff. That still is important, but when you're dealing with other people, you have to understand how to interact with people. When you're dealing with, you work with clients, you're dealing with customers, your goal is to understand that person. They if that makes sense. And that's what I had to really learn, this idea of, being able to put yourself in a customer's shoes, or, being able to have that level of, relaxed composure with what you're doing.
As in, not going in with your own agenda.
Like I didn't mean, I wasn't salesy or anything like that. It was more the fact that I just really wanted to do well, because I wanted to be able to learn these skills and be able to kind of. I guess the analogy, it's a little bit when you see sports athletes, right? That when they try too hard, you see a footballer who is just they're snatching at every opportunity, and they're not just wait. Like the moment will come, play the game properly, and you get opportunity. And I had to really learn that, and I think, I think there's a few things really. Like I definitely had a limiting belief issue initially in many cases in sales. 100%,
for yourself, as in
100%.
like you thought you could only do
100%,
so well.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But that's ironically the other side of that personality allowed me to work really hard. I felt like I had to earn everything I got. But as a result, when it came to work with people, planning, being disciplined, that side of it for me wasn't a problem.
Right.
It really wasn't.
That limiting belief, was that more based on, could you pick up sales because you hadn't had experience? Where did that limiting belief come from, do you think?
It came from, I don't it's probably quite a long one, because I've tried to do a lot of self-reflection stuff, and luckily I've had great mentors like Mike and other people like that who've really actually helped me align myself to dealing with this issue. But I definitely think I didn't naturally believe that I was going to be successful in anything.
Okay.
Nothing's ever really come to me easily. Playing basketball, being 5'11", not the most physically gifted. You have to work really hard in other areas to compete. At school, it's like a funny story I now tell, but like when I was really young, my parents got brought in. When I was thinking, I think it was like year 2, year 3, one of these typical stories where my parents got brought in like ahead of time, and they were like, "Look, your son's probably not going to achieve what's deemed to be the average on the national curriculum."
Oh, really?
Yeah. So probably about good 2 or 3 years after that, I was in like bottom set for everything. So like it was always a little bit. It was almost, when I look back now, and they're quite sensitive years, right? Like, it's not to be a sob story, but I do believe a little bit of that kind of definitely had an effect as I got older.
Were you aware of that conversation?
Weirdly enough, yeah, because this is going to be even funnier now. So like when I was like 5 or 6, I remember there was me and this kid, and I think his name was also Josh. Classic.
Noted not to call our second son Josh.
Yeah. And we joined, and this is why I don't think this would happen now because of like self-esteem and stuff. But we used to get like, it literally was like, "All right, Josh, all right, you're off now," and we'd be like, "Okay," and like we'd leave in the middle of our kind of class session and go to like a extra support school, and it was like real support school, like really quite, for those who needed it. And I was only there for like a month, luckily, because they realised I actually didn't need that type of support. I just wasn't natural. I just think I just wasn't naturally social when I was really young, like a lot younger.
Have you got siblings or anything?
Yeah, I've got an older brother, younger brother.
Oh.
So not.
You just hate them.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate them like I hate the guts. No. No.
Classic middle child syndrome.
Yeah, it probably is that. I probably looked at stuff. I was like, I don't really want to play in the sand. I don't want to play with water. I'm just going to chill on my own. I think it was a little bit like that, really.
Right.
But yeah, I can't believe I remember that so vividly. But there you go. But so moving on. So, I worked really hard, and I got like average in SATs, and I was like really proud of that. And it was like, it was a bit of a moment for my mum, because
they were expecting you to not achieve the minimum.
I said to my mum, I was like, oh, I'm just as good as everyone else now. My mum was like, you always were, that type of thing. It was like very like sobby. But and then I did okay at kind of my did kind of well when I got to college, and then university I did really well. But I think university is about how hard you actually want to work. And then I think that same mentality applied with my sport. I kind of did all right, to a degree. Was never going to make it like some of my friends did.
You said, like, when we were off air about, being 5'11", so is that quite short for a basketball player?
So it's quite funny. So I got a stepson who's, plays basketball at a good level, and he's older, he's like 6'3", 6'4", so he fits in pretty well. But on a football pitch, I look pretty normal, even relatively tall in some cases. But honestly, on a basketball court, it's sometimes... It's so funny how small I look that I remember my partner's mum came and watched me play a few years ago, and she didn't notice me on the court.
Oh, really?
Because obviously how big everyone is, so it's quite funny.
She's like, where is it? Oh, it's in there.
Yeah,
he's like a little child on the
literally
court.
thought I was a teenager. I genuinely think she thought I was a teenager. So it was quite funny looking back.
But that's really interesting, Josh, because I've known you for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of 8 years.
Yeah, I was saying this about 7, 8 years.
Yeah. And I've only ever seen you at the front of the room delivering incredible topics, speeches, running great meetings, and even on a personal level, you're a very confident guy and very articulate. So it's amazing your journey from school, where you've told that you weren't going to achieve the minimum standard expected from the average child, which is probably pretty low, to someone that's kind of now built an incredibly profitable business that generates millions of pounds for its clients. So what happened in between that?
So it's quite funny. So it's just meeting the right people at the right time. And I think if you work hard enough, you do meet the right people at the right time. Okay. So I bumped into a best friend of mine at school who we were arch enemies on the basketball court when we were in year 7, year 8, and then we kind of put our powers together and all that kind of stuff. But I owe a lot to him for sure, because he was the guy that I looked at and was like, oh, you're just naturally smart. And I remember as I got to be really close friends with him, like during the Easter holidays, he was like, oh, do you want to go do this? I was like, why don't we go to school and do some extra work, and then we'll do that after? And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I turned up there, and guess who was there? It was all the kids that were just the smartest kids.
Right.
And I was like,
go figure.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, hang about. And that was the first time for me when I got to like early teenage years that I was like, hang about, it isn't just about what you have or don't have from the starting line. It's actually about what you are willing to pick up apply yourself with along the way.
So you're conscious of who your kind of circle was.
Yeah, and I think that was a little bit subconscious because of the fact that my friend held himself in high regard. He was quite proud of himself, and I really made it my accountable to kind of really stay close to him and so i.e. for example, like we would like revise together and I'd be like, right, I'm kind of finishing up now. And he's like, no mate, we've got at least another hour. And I'm like, what? I'm like, this is holidays. I was like, so yeah, I definitely wrapped up.
I bet your parents were like, we're happy you're friends with this guy.
100%, right? 100%. And
paying his parents kind of thing.
Keep coming back, yeah. But yeah, so him. And then, as I said, then as I got to university, I kind of went through college, then carried that same habits more than anything. And then I think then when I got into the industry and then I met sharp people that worked hard, I could see that they were going to do well, and I then aligned what they were doing with the things in my life that mattered to me, and I think that's what made me not go to university. Because I think when I look back now, the whole university thing for me is because at the time I felt like I didn't have a choice, because I was in the job centre living off £50 a week trying to find a job in that meanwhile, and I think I was very fortunate to meet certain people like Dan Thompson and Mike Warren and then people beyond that, you guys and then other people as well, and it went from there.
And also fast forward to, what was it, last year we hosted a sales masterclass and we kind of invited all the different speakers. Well, we got everyone to vote at the end to say, which impact and sales kind of topic that resonated the best or did you think was the best? You won with like flying colours. So that's so, I suppose, cool to see that, from that initial meeting with that primary school teacher and to see the development.
I think that's always, I don't think my story is unique in that way. I think there's plenty of people like that. I think the shame of a lot of stuff is just how much people do carry that stuff with them, and that was what this industry made me do. Like, it made me look at why did I maybe not go as far basketball I could have done, and the support of and the right mentorship, made me kind of deal with that and be accountable for that and identify that blind spot in my personality that I didn't know was there until I kind of overcome it, and that was it.
So it sounds like you've really found your way through, was it college or secondary school onwards?
Yeah, I did.
So then how did that look when you first joined the sales industry in your first sales job? Did you... When
you say how did it look, do you mean personally or...
Yeah, as in like, what was your performance like? Because obviously you sound like you had some amazing growth and you found yourself. Did that mean that you kind of applied yourself pretty easily and things came quite easily to you?
Yeah, like, when you do an unpaid internship in London for a year beforehand and you'll do it... I'd get up at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, cycle to the train station, and it was like blisteringly cold in the football season, you know what I mean? And then I'd be, it was with Brentford Football Club at the time, and I wouldn't get back till 10 at night. And it was completely unpaid, like no expenses paid, because it was so competitive.
The sports industry,
science, So I think I was one of like 140 odd people that applied for an unpaid role, and
for a year.
Yeah, exactly right. It was like, and on Sunday as well to work with the academy lot, and it was pretty. So when I came into this, and it was like, I can make good money. They're going to teach me, and I'm like, all I've got to do is turn up, but actually mean it. I was like, I'm in. And that was when I started to then like learn a lot of these psychological concepts that I was quite interested in and naturally fascinated by. And I could see how this industry really was about learning these kind of concepts, but which ultimately means you kind of understand yourself better, and which then makes you better with working with other people. And it kind of went from there.
Yeah.
So how quick did you go from learning sales to then coaching and training other people?
So it was a weird one. So I kind of I kind of got to a level of performance within sales, which then warranted my ability to be able to be good at coaching other people. And I'll be honest, I think I over-relied on my willpower, my work ethic for a period of time, i.e., how planned I was, how dedicated, how accountable I felt to people I worked with, actually made me really good with coaching people. And because naturally I was quite interested in a lot of psychology, like a lot of the stuff that I was looking into maybe made me quite an effective coach even before I was performing at a good level, if that makes sense. Because I think like getting good at sales now, especially in the modern world, is really more about understanding how to react to situations, how to behave, how not to behave. It's not necessarily about your ability to sell to someone, because I think people aren't as naive. I think people are well informed. They know if you're trying to sell to them or not.
Yeah.
They know if you care or not.
A lot of your clients are non-profits, right? So you're not actually selling.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
You're fundraising.
100%. And even with clients we've done in the past, which was government scheme related, it was giving people stuff for free. It was, if anything, it was creating that confidence in them that you were there to serve them.
Yeah.
Or when you're doing non-profit stuff, indirectly serving communities that we were engaging in.
Yeah.
So going back to kind of your point though, so it took me a while to get good at sales, and I went on like a bit of a retrain after about 4 months in, and I already had like a really good group of guys. I was well on my way to kind of running my own kind of company. And I kind of went all the way back and did a bit of a retrain in the sales. And
when you say retrain, for our listeners,
I watched top performing people, and because I was a lot more kind of aware now, and that was an area that I was quite kind of almost deficient.
Yeah.
I was really kind of zeroed in on, right, I need to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. And I remember there's a couple of things that stood out to me. I was watching high performing people do sales, and it looked like they didn't care. And
Indifferent.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. So I was like, and then I had to really understand it, because obviously they did care, but they didn't put pressure on every moment, and that's what I was doing too much. It was like every moment was too significant, and it's almost a bit of a continuum, right? Like if you want things to happen too much, they don't happen. And if you don't do enough, they don't happen.
Yeah.
So I had to really get that healthy balance, which I did, and one of the things I did is I went and watched someone in Guildford for a whole day who was kind of the opposite of what I assumed a high roller would look like. And that really made me kind of realise that I was my own problem. I was the problem. I had to I thought I was really hard working, had a lot of discipline, which I did generally. But in this area within myself, I actually was quite poorly disciplined.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. So everyone would look at me and go, Josh is hard working. He'll do whatever he needs to do. But it was actually, this was through work with someone like Mike, who naturally was quite a good performer in sales. He identified that actually my problem was a limiting belief issue.
Yeah.
And until I overcame that, I was always going to be limited in how effective I could be in the industry.
Yeah.
And that's kind of,
And you said that came like 4 months in, and you had a team around you at this point. So on paper, people would be like, well, he knows what he's doing, etc. And I think I would assume, especially people that are in our industry at that point, they might go, oh no, I can't go on a retrain, or I can't go backwards, because then it would be embarrassing.
A pride thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is like terminology people use, like going backwards. I never saw it as that.
No,
At all. I remember having a chat one late night with Mike and someone else, and we were doing well, but I knew that the problem was the expectation across the team wasn't high enough.
Yeah.
And I looked at myself and went, that's on me.
Well, because they're looking up to you.
Yeah, I was like, that's me. Like, that's actually the problem here. It's almost like having like a pipe with like a load of water coming out and kind of half closing the end off. It was like, I need to get the cap off.
Why is no one
doing
doing
no
well?
water coming out here? Oh, you've got a lid on it, mate. Do you know what I mean? So no, it was So on paper it looked all right. But what I was honest about was how hard I was having to work to do the level of sales I was doing wasn't really representative of really what I should have been doing.
It's not efficient.
100%. So this is when I used to watch other people, and I'd be like, they look like they just weren't. Like I'd be like I said, I'd come back sweating and with my one sale.
Leave it all out there.
Yeah, left it all out there, and I was always willing to do that. That was the thing that was a frustrating thing for me, because really it probably was really frustration. I wasn't. I was applying myself, and I was like, well, if it's not happening, it must be I just don't have the natural gift, natural ability. And then the honesty that this industry kind of offers you kind of allows you to kind of eradicate that, because all it takes is some new people that have not been as many client training sessions as you, or hasn't been as well coached as you, goes and does really well, and it's like they've just been in sunshine and rainbows all day. And for some reason, for me, I've always had to like fight a dragon, I felt, every day, and it was like maybe I just wasn't doing it properly, and that's actually what it was.
So we kind of find over the years, and you've seen this as well, lots of people love the idea of getting into sales because there's lots of benefits, self-development, opportunity to develop their careers. Obviously, there's a big financial kind of benefit as well. But what you find is people love the idea, come in, don't maybe hit the ground running. It sounds like you've not said this, but it sounds like you maybe didn't do amazing straight away. Yeah,
100%.
But what a lot of people do is, rather than look at themselves and getting retrained, as you said, they just say, well, let's quit, let's do something else. What made you stick around and get retrained, and what made you kind of stick it out until you got really good?
Well, you can't deny what's in front of you. So if you've got people that are doing well, and again, for me, I was 21 going 22, so I was quite. realistic with the way the world worked, if that makes sense. Like even I was willing to work hard, and I'm not Elon Musk, do you know what I mean? I'm not, the smartest guy, evidently not the smartest guy in the world, but so I kind of was like, well, the reality of society is difficult. Like I went to university, got a first class honours degree, like presented my dissertation at fancy stuff, and I ended up in the job centre. So like, it's for me, I kind of got humbled pretty quick in many cases. You know what I mean? So I think I never felt overly like I was owed anything.
Okay.
So I think when I started and I went, right, there's skill sets here. There's a platform of opportunity if I want it. So there was that and again, through working hard, I got exposed to good people. Like I said, if I didn't work hard and if I felt like I was entitled, I probably may not have had the time or the opportunity or the access to certain people who were willing to help me. But because they could sense I wanted to be helped and I wanted to do well, I think that was massive.
I got humbled coming out of uni as well, because I definitely thought I'd have a line of
that's what they tell you, didn't they?
Come here,
so
for me.
When I did my degree, it was literally the same year that the 2012 Olympics was had in London. So I was like, all I've got to do is nail this.
Storm.
And I'm like,
you'll be working with Usain Bolt.
Yeah, it was like all the stadiums got like shut down, and like there was a lot of political changes at the time, and then and then I kind of was like, hang about, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then you look at that in two ways as well, don't you? Either get nihilistic about it, or you kind of go, well, it's just you need to make an adjustment. And that's kind of why I went down. That's why initially I was going to do a master's. But then when I fell into the industry and I realised that, the way in which you kind of learn how to work for yourself and actually learn how to be a capable person if that makes sense. I think this is, like I said, it's more of a life skills opportunity than it is a job or just a career. I genuinely believe that.
Because you would have started on being paid performance only, right?
Yep.
So, some people might be like, oh my God, but if I'm not making the money right now, I could go work less effort, less hours, less stress, and go get a 9-to-5 job and get guaranteed income. What made you not jump ship to go do that? Because that's the easy thing that people can do, right?
Yeah. And I got advised to do that like really early on. But I think it was because I was willing to back myself in a sense that I knew I was willing to do what was needed to acquire the skills to make it worth my while.
Yeah.
There's no point learning to work if you're not going to make it worth your while, if you're not going to understand the element of a bit of delayed gratification, and understand that if you don't value what it is you're doing, that's the half of it. I think like people maybe don't value the effort and the skills that they're offered.
Really respect it, yeah.
Yeah, and I did, and I think at the time there was a lot of stuff going on with my family, and I was like, well, I want to make sure that my trajectory in life is on my control. I'm willing to go through. Again, it's weird, isn't it? It's what people perceive as risky. I never really found it risky. It was more, at the time I had the opportunity and I had the capacity to apply myself in this to, make sure that I had control over my income, where I wanted to be in 2-3 years' time. In my head, I was deferring university at the time, so university wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So it was a little bit like, I didn't really see it risky at all. I felt that actually the support I had around me and how committed they were to my development actually was the safest thing going.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 3 questions you might have kind of heard us ask other guests. And these are the 3 M's. And the first one's a mindset. And I think we've just actually learned an awful lot about your mindset. Yeah. But how valuable for our listeners that are listening in that maybe kind of have just started in the sales industry or that kind of have been here for, maybe kind of the first 6 months in their rookie year with us. What kind of what advice could you give them about mindset and how important is it to Josh?
Yeah, so mindset, definitely. I think a lot of mindset for me is about having perspective. So really understanding the value of what you're doing. If you look at just what you're doing in isolation, if it goes, whether it goes good for you or doesn't go well for you, like it didn't go well for me initially, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it or should do it. It's for me, I understood the challenge that I was confronted by, and actually that was going to allow me to really grow. So for me, mentality is about being unconditional about the things you're doing. Because I'm a little bit of an all or nothing person in a sense that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it for the right reasons, because not just because I want to do it from a short-term or selfish standpoint, but if I'm going to apply myself in anything, I want it to be of something of value which I can see me being able to leverage from down the line. And mindset is it's a developing thing as well. I do think that as well. Like I think understanding mindset isn't a fixed thing. You're always developing it. You're always building it. It's always getting, you always should be adding to it. And I think, that's what answers it. But
it does, because I go back to I still remember my first ever day in the industry.
Yeah.
And remember, I had no sales experience. I'd come from university, same sports science degree as you, right? Exactly the same.
There you go.
All the best people are. But I remember I was given a day's training in the office. And when we say training, it was kind of, it's pretty basic stuff, right? I learned a conversation, what to say on behalf of the client, and taught some really basic principles of how to communicate. And then it was cool, let's go practice it. And I spent 15 minutes with the person that trained me. And then she was like, cool, good luck. We'll see you at 8:30. Okay. And I remember after about, I think it must have been maybe an hour, this girl called me, hey Rob, check in, how you getting on? And I think I'd spoken to 15 customers and they've all said no. I didn't get very far through my pitch. And it's funny to look back now, but I remember she asked how I was and I said, yeah, no one's interested. Yeah. No one likes the client. I don't think I was going to sign up here today. And I made all these kind of assumptions based on speaking to about 15 people. So my mindset was actually kind of very an emotional one, very 100%. Reactive to what's happened. And
nothing to do with you, it was all them.
Oh yeah, of course it wasn't my fault. It was the territory's fault. Yeah. It was so kind of a lot of people I do find with zero experience, they come in and their expectation is in sales, everyone's going to buy, everyone's going to sign up, everyone's going to want to have a conversation with you no matter what they're doing today. So that's obviously an unfair expectation of yourself, and that normally goes one way, and it's pretty 100%. Badly. So what would your tips be for people that kind of just joined sales, how to manage their mindset expectations? Or
definitely go actually investigate, in a sense of, go find people, speak to people that do well, because they're the ones who are going to be best placed and the most well informed to give you perspective over what it's going to be like. And I think if you understand how it's going to be like, you can be prepared for it. And when I mean prepared for it, you can actually make sure that you understand what the challenges are going to be, where your opportunities are going to lie. And I would say don't be too short term. Like your mindset that given day was made up after 5 minutes. I'm like, can you imagine if anyone of value, anyone that's done anything, exceptional, gave up after 5 minutes? Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit like, and it's kind of, people have to realize, like, everyone loves the story, don't they, of like the person that kind of struggles and has come through at the end. And it's funny, isn't it? Because a lot of people, maybe it's a confidence thing and because they've never done it before, but when they get their bit of adversity, it's like, I didn't want this. Yeah. It's like, wasn't expecting that. And I'm like, well, the best thing I always say to new people is just get great at the level you're at. Actually, enjoy it. Like, actually enjoy the process. Because if you get too attached to the process, like I did initially, it is frustrating, and it can be. And ironically, that actually is a perpetuating thing that makes it harder to then kind of deal with. So I'd always say, find the right people, speak to the right people, get advice, make sure you get your expectations are in alignment with what you're going to need to do, because then you can prepare. Prepare.
I think a lot of it's to do with impatience in our
100%.
Our kind of world that we live in now, right? I mean, we're now I'll make it sound like we're super old. Like our generation, right?
Yeah.
We all three of us grew up pre-internet.
Yeah.
So we've gone through no internet, the early internet, dial-up and all that jazz.
It takes about 3 hours to load a 3-minute video, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You'd load something, you'd go down, make yourself dinner and come back and it's still going, kind of thing.
I remember kind of illegally downloading music, and it took 4 days.
Oh yeah, I tried to download the whole Blink-182 album, and that was a week's worth of effort, right? So we've grew up in that period, and then now we live in a world where everything's instant. We get annoyed if a Wi-Fi connection isn't good enough and all of these things. So I think we're just being conditioned to expect everything straight away. So I do find that there's, especially for some of the newer people coming through our business, they do get frustrated so fast because they're like, well, if it's not happening right now, it's just not for me.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like, and we're there going, well, you haven't really given yourself much of a chance yet. But maybe that's just the culture they live in, because it is instant gratification everywhere we go.
No, it's funny you say that. So because of, my journey kind of getting into the industry, I never expected anything to happen really quickly anyway. So it was quite funny. When I then made the decision to defer university, in my head, I was thinking, well, I went to university for 3 years and got a degree, right? I've already been doing this now for 6 months, and I was generating good income in sales after this 6 months. So in my head I was thinking, if I did that, went to university 3 years and got a degree, and ended up without actually much kind of going for me at the time, then if that's kind of when I started. That's what I was actually comparing it to. It's like 3 years. So my head's like, if I did this for 3 years, I definitely could have a great business. I definitely could, I'm going to get exposed to great people in this industry.
Yeah.
So that idea of me deferring university for a year kind of gave me the real chance to really have a good run at it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I definitely think there's some people or segments of society where how it goes after 5 minutes is how it's going to be like today, which means it will be like this week and this month. And I'm like, it's just not how anything of value for me personally, and it's a bit of opinion, it's not how everything works.
I've made the mistake as well where, I not promote, but I kind of talk about the success stories where people have done things quickly, because I know that's what people want to hear. They want to know that how long is this going to take? I want it right now. It's like, well, there are examples of people that do it quick. These are the people that progress and pick up sales quickly, or they build a team in 5 minutes, and that's one person. If you think about both of your examples, it wasn't a 5-minute success story.
And it doesn't necessarily mean you're guaranteed for success for the rest of your life just because you hit a purple patch or from the get-go. Like, my whole thing is I'm so much more confident now of who I am, and I almost feel so much more I have so much more belief in how things are going to go within my business because of everything I've learned, not because of how easy it was after my first month.
I often talk about in our office having like a baby mentality, because I find humans kind of get frustrated too quick, give up too quickly, right? And I'm the same. I kind of was it. No, I've not given up. I'm still on that kind of train for now. But I went through a stage of kind of getting in the gym and getting in good shape, and then you have a cold, or you get lazy, or you're hungover. I'll tell you, I'll skip the gym, and then it's gone for a long time, right? But we're very, very easy at giving up on things, and I think I was a little bit like that. But what I talk about is have this baby mentality of when babies are young, it's their kind of, what they say, in the first 3 years a baby's born, they learn more than they learn for the rest of their life, or something like that. When it comes to taste, feel,
probably.
Walking,
all the senses,
their learning zone is huge. So what I try and kind of say to some of our team is, I want you to just have this baby mentality of just be resilient, don't give up. Because if babies did give up, can you imagine the first time they tried to kind of stand up and walk, and they got up and then they fell flat on their face and cried, and they're like, tell you what, this walking stuff's a bit tough. Let's scrap that. None of us be walking,
around.
right? Yeah, we'd be on the floor today having a little chat, doing the podcast with tiny little microphones, and the lights would be really short. It'd be a funny world. So I think sometimes adults were just very, very good at forgetting there is a process. Things take time, and even going back to as a child, riding a bike for the first time. Not many people get on that bike, start wheeling down the road, no-handed, and say, "Great, I'm a cyclist."
Yeah, and I think ultimately with that stuff it's a skill-based industry, right? So you have to realise just because you've done really well in one field doesn't necessarily mean it's going to directly translate into this field. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because I'm really good at really good at sales and coach sales doesn't mean I'm now going to be able to just get on the drums and do you know what I mean? It's everything's a unique set of skills, and you've got to be willing to kind of go back to stage one in certain areas, and that's only if I think our patience, like you were saying with stuff, is just in the modern world, because a lot of things are done for us conveniently with minimal effort, but we still get the same dopamine feelings and all that lot. And
wasn't that how computer games are designed, isn't it? Like the amount of dopamine hits you get in a 10-minute window on Call of Duty or something, it's enough to probably call it addictive, and probably should be seen to.
No, literally, no. And it's how you can manipulate difficulties of games and still get the same outcome results. I definitely think that has a factor, 100%, in how people end up interacting with artificial worlds versus real worlds. So it'd be interesting to see how that kind of plays out.
You're a really interesting test to see who plays their games on hard or who does it on easy.
So I did. So my step-lad now, he's obviously older. He's 18 and plays basketball in Leicester and doing really well, which I'm super proud of. He always puts, whenever we used to play basketball games now and again, and I remember I saw him put it on really easy. And I remember just watching him going, "What are you doing? What are you doing that for?" He's like, "You're just going to rinse the game and you'll be done with it in a month. There's no point."
Yeah.
And I remember kind of going, that's not cool.
It's not an expert. Let's ruin your day.
Yeah, literally stressing out, getting rage. But now I used to come in and he'd be playing it. He doesn't really play anymore because he's so focused on his sport, 'cause it's full on. But I'd come in and he'd be winning. I'd be like, was like, oh, you got it on easy peasy lemon squeezy. He's like, no, I got it on Hall of Fame. And it's like takes a lot of pride in like how he's playing. But anyway, yeah. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So Josh, that leads me on now to, motivation, our second M. So getting good at sales, getting good at kind of coaching, developing others, to even now to, building the incredible business that you've created down in Brighton. What part has motivation played in getting you to that point?
Yeah, I would definitely say, it's massive. Obviously, it's massive, but I think it's different types of motivation. I think, you go through that period, don't you, where you're motivated for you to do really good because you're like, oh, this is a platform for me to express myself and all this type of stuff. I think over time, like it definitely, being accountable for things in my life that I want to change or I want, and I could see how, because it's, the industry is all about developing the next level of skills. I was able to associate just how certain skills lent itself to certain outcomes lent to me being able to have more choices in the world, and then that's where it kind of for me spills over into helping family. I've got a partner who supports me in the business who's great at what she's doing, and I want to be able to support her, like my stepson, and then do other things in the community. And for me, I can really identify how the business now is allowing me to be able to be accountable for more things. So now it's less about me and more about other things that I get excited about. And I think my motivation now for me is definitely about being accountable to people and not wanting to. And sometimes it sounds a bit negative, doesn't it? Because it's like you almost kind of say, I don't want to let people down. But it's not that. It's just I know that now for me, what's going to get the best out of myself is actually me being willing to do things that necessarily in the short term I'm not going to instantly get reward from now, if that makes sense. I still remember the effort, and when I was doing the first sale I did, that's. Them feelings are long gone. Now it's more, okay, what is it I'm doing today that's going to help things for me down the line now? How does the next 6 months look, 12 months look?
It's a more long-term vision. Yeah.
Long term and things outside of the industry now,
Okay. But if we rewind back to the sales field, Josh in his first 12 months in the sales field,
I'd love to meet that guy again.
And I'm not sure if the answer is going to be different before your retrain or after the retrain that you had.
Yeah.
But let's say you're in the sales field, and we're in Britain, right? So we've got beautiful weather every single day, and it's raining.
Yeah.
Customers are saying no. You're not feeling on your A game.
The sea winds coming in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you're on the coast, of course. Yeah. At what point did motivation get you through the day, or was it more determination, or was it just resilience, or?
Look, naturally, I think it's always going to be a bit of a factor of everything, right? I deferred going to university, so therefore I was not going to waste my time. So if I'm deferring that, then I need to make sure that I'm into what I'm doing. I also just looked at everything as a bit of a challenge, So if I had a tough day, it was like, look, if I can get a result in this, I've got evidence about myself and my character that I can have confidence with as I move forward. And I think that's where, it's less about worrying about, I'm worried about doing badly. Look, things are going to go badly in life, whether you mean them to or not. And I don't just mean in the industry, I mean generally. So I think if you kind of look at these kind of significant situations like a day like that, and me meeting my old self, I'd be like, look, just go for it. Just go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? We're in the same situation we're in now. You're a bit wet, probably a bit chilly, or you can almost use it as an opportunity to, not just kind of get a result, but it's more than a result. It's it's the evidence of making the right decisions. It's the evidence of applying yourself. It's the evidence of the value of being committed. So I think it's definitely that whole resilience. I want to be a resilient person. I want to be that. So you can't just want that. You have to develop that. And I think they're the moments that that I look back to and kind of go, that is what actually made me successful. That is actually what's helped me develop who I am as a person. For sure. And again, very fortunate of working with certain people as well. As I said, rubbing shoulders with people as I grew up who were with that mindset as well.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that leads me perfectly into the third M, which is kind of all about kind of mentors, right? So you've been mentored by some fantastic people. You kind of name dropped kind of Dan, which now he's in America. Mm-hmm. You got Mike, obviously, that you kind of started your kind of career with. So what kind of things did Mike and Dan and your mentors, what kind of things did they do that made them great mentors for you?
Yeah, so overarching thing is they genuinely cared, because the nature of this business is they've been in your shoes and they've experienced what you've experienced, so they understand what it takes for you to do well at every level. So I think the overarching thing they cared. definitely the importance of, saying what you mean and meaning what you say, if that makes sense. So having, if you say you're going to try and commit to something, actually mean it, because you're only selling yourself short if you don't,
Yeah.
But in terms of more unique stuff, definitely when Dan, just phenomenal dealing with people, like, he's just, went to his wedding recently, and it's like, it's just everyone and it's different, and it's people that have known him for years from the industry, outside the industry, and it's quite quite impressive, And so I think, your ability to be good with people, and people should want to get to know you and want to work with you. And then with Mike is, for me, working hard, really having clear, honest goals and conviction. You've got to be a person of conviction, and you've got to be someone that, is willing to fight for what it is that matters to you. And I think the rest of it in between is, just learning along the way, and then you becoming more of a capable person as a result of it all, really.
Yeah. So and have you got any kind of tips for people that are going to be mentored? Because, it sounds like you're a very coachful person. It sounds like you're,
maybe generally, but maybe in certain areas, but yeah.
But I've kind of mentored lots of people, and it's kind of, often, I remember kind of someone asked me to be their mentor, and we did one phone call. They never called me again, and I found out they just didn't like the answers I gave them. Classic. Because they wanted to be told that they were great, they were fantastic, and everything's okay. And my style is I'm quite open and honest. I think that's the way mentors should be. But have you got any tips for people kind of how to be mentored, how to be coachable?
Yeah, definitely respect people's time, because these people who you want to learn from are very busy people.
Yeah.
So, I've definitely had the experience where, people have asked me for advice, and I could tell we're networking because they've been told to network, not because they've actually thought about what to network about, if that makes sense. Like, really be clear on what it is that you need to learn from the person. I do think sometimes, you need, like I said about, meeting the right people at the right time. There's certain things that you're going to need to speak to certain people about, and naturally you need to be seeking the right answers from the right people. So yeah, being really conscious who you get your advice from, support from. Don't just get support and advice from people, again, who are going to give you the answers you want, because they're not the answers you need.
Because you're friends, or
exactly, right? So that's definitely a lot of the mentors I had. Not just Mike and Dan. They were willing to give me the answers I needed, but ultimately, because of the trust and mutual respect was there, I received it in the right way and tried to do my best to do it. So respecting people's time, make sure you speak with the right people and get the right advice from the right people, for sure.
Yeah. So then, sticking on the mentorship kind of theme there, over the years, has there been any advice, or have you been shown anything from your mentors that's really kind of stuck with you and really kind of helped you?
I can't remember where or when I kind of heard this or picked this up, but the biggest advice that I still say to people today, and I even kind of remind myself with, is don't confuse your self-worth with your net worth.
Okay.
And for me that was really important, because and I mean both ways as well. Like, if you're doing really well, don't confuse that with your self-worth, because sometimes you're at sea where it's easy tide. Some days or some parts of my career, the tide's been really choppy, and actually just a bit of success in that period was actually more important than when it was easy. And similarly, when things aren't going as well, or aren't maybe going the way you wanted to, or maybe things didn't pan out, that's not a reflection of necessarily of you, if you've done everything you should have done. Because actually it's in them journeys and in that process, that's where you learn about yourself, and that's where you learn the mistakes. And I think experience with education is where wisdom comes from. So that's definitely the biggest bit of advice I would say. Don't confuse your self-worth with your net worth, and staying humble, and just understand that every day's a new day. So
have you got that in your office, like a big?
No,
I think you
I
should.
would love to. Yeah, I definitely would love to. Yeah,
I might pitch that idea.
Yeah.
And then I love the phrase, and it comes from I heard it from the England rugby team.
Yeah.
Mario Toje, he spoke about the shit that no one sees.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of things behind closed doors that make you really successful, but it's not maybe not the glamorous stuff. It's not the things that you show off every single day. Do you have anything that you do that people don't necessarily see that that makes a huge difference?
Yeah, so I'm massive on cold showers, so I actually think that genuinely has helped me a lot.
Wow.
which not for, you know, there's a lot of science in it now, but you know, but generally for me it's a massive reset button. You know, cold shower in the morning. You know, I'm choosing to do something which is actually a little bit difficult and uncomfortable. So the first decision of my day was to do something a little bit challenging, and I think it's a little bit of a psychological win. Whether that's again an extension of my personality, a little bit of needing to prove to myself that I'm good enough in a weird way. Yeah. But it definitely is something I do every day. I have a routine that I've done for years now, where, you know, in the morning, you know, when I get up, there's a few things I express gratitude for, and that for me, it just, no matter how yesterday went, good, bad, or indifferent, it kind of allows me to kind of go, right, you know, today is a new day, and you know, it's this idea of it being like a bit of a reset button. So no matter how I'm feeling or what's gone on in my life, first thing I do, you know, have gratitude for a few, you know, certain things in my life that I remind myself for. You know, cold shower, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So that's one, but that's kind of a unique kind of one. But no, like, you know, I think the things that no one sees is just my willingness to do whatever needs to be done. So whether it's going in the field doing sales still, you know, coaching people. I get in the office very early. You know, I try and get into the office between anywhere from 7:15 till 7:45 every morning, which relative to the hours we do for our particular clients is considerably relative.
When would the rest of your team normally come in?
Oh, well, ironically, there's now a culture where a lot of people come really early.
Oh, really?
But in terms of when we do a lot of our coaching starts at 11.
Oh wow! So you're coming a couple hours before.
We have a lot of our core meetings at kind of 10, 10:30. But in terms of, you know, and I just think for me, it's just I've got that period of time where I can just really be still, and you know, the only person that might be in is Mike with his team. And then
so for those sorry to interrupt, for those 3 hours, what are you doing?
Really
cold showers in the office.
Yeah, cold. Yeah. Just
do you have a plunge pool?
Expressing a lot of gratitude. No, I'm just spending that time where I can actually look at what I've planned and thought out for the day or for the week. Sometimes things need changing, so I'm not a big I'm not big on what's the word to say? Am I big on routines? I guess my whole thing is I want to kind of operate in a way where I'm able to be flexible and adaptable. And I think for me, because our days are a lot later, I find it hard to do stuff at night, because if I am going out and I'm, you know, with training, coaching people, doing a lot of sales stuff, you know, at the end of the day, to have the brain power and the freshness to then make crisp, accurate decisions, for me, I find difficult. Yeah. And it's the time where I need to be, you know, at home or, you know, with my partner and stuff. So
just making that time in the morning.
Make that time in the morning, and I'm really planning, and I'm looking at how things have gone as the week goes on. Do we need to make some tweaks, changes? I get a lot of admin stuff done, and I get a lot of personal development done. So I'll be more kind of podcasts or watching interviews, and if I've got spare time, that's what I'll be doing in the mornings.
The Men's Prize podcast. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Plug that in.
So back to the ice baths. I have a real affliction to cold water, right? So you won't catch me in that.
Really?
Yeah, hate it. But I've got some PTSD as a school trip in primary school. We went to, I think it was Devon somewhere, and every morning we had to go into this kind of sea pool and do 2 lengths, and it was Baltic winter, freezing cold, and you know, I thought I think it's child cruelty. I thought it was, but so I stay away from cold water now.
Cruelty for you is like, I'd be like so up for
yeah,
that.
You're loving it.
Funny.
You're the teacher chucking the kids in. Yeah. But so what, just out of interest, for someone that doesn't have ice baths, and for our viewers that don't, what do you get out of it, and what do you feel from it?
I've cottoned onto it a while ago from this Wim Hof character who's really picked up a lot of steam on social media now, and I think what's happened is he looks a bit kind of pseudoscience type guy, and you know, me and Mike, you know, crack jokes about it with each other and now and again, but you know, there's a lot of legitimacy in what he's done now through science, and that's what, again, the sports science background and me wanting to, you know, be the best version of myself and all that type of stuff. You know, anything like that I think could help me, I'll do it. That's kind of what I'm a bit like. For me though, what it does is it really creates a lot of like alertness. You know, it makes me feel very awake, completely refreshes me. Almost, I feel like it's really alerts every part of me, if that makes sense. I mean, outside of all the long-term health benefits that I'm quite interested in, you know, for me, it's really refreshing. It gives me positive emotion, positive feeling, and I think that's a response that your body gives to it for doing something that's challenging, which, you know, because if you think your body doesn't know, the funny thing with that stuff, right, not to kind of go on a different tangent, but it's like your body doesn't know whether the pain you're experiencing is positive or negative. It just knows pain.
Okay.
So I think what it kind of is do a cold shower, and I had a bit of a cold plunge on the balcony for a period of time, and your body's like, oh my God, this is bad, because naturally it would be, right? Like really cold water, icy water. And then when your body gets out of it and it flushes through your system, all your vessels open up. Like, oh yeah, you can see I'm excited just talking about it now. Yeah,
passion. I'm going to buy an ice bath later on.
Yeah, but it's great for your mind. It's great for your mental health. But it's on the other side of doing something a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And,
well, I was going to say, right, I've done no research into them and haven't done any ice baths, but I was listening to a bodybuilder recently. I'm pretty sure it's a bodybuilder. And he said that he had no idea about the science behind them. He said he just has an ice bath every single morning because he hates them and it's creating discipline because he gets in it and within a millisecond he wants to get out because it's so cold. But he said mentally he's just start of the day creating discipline and doing something that he doesn't want to do, which makes the rest of his tasks later on pretty simple. Yeah,
I agree. Like I definitely think choosing to do things uncomfortable, there's that reward factor. And I think if you can create almost a form of habit of just dealing with stuff, you can't just deal with stuff that you want to do that's convenient. Nothing is going to be long term or sustainable if all you can do is things that are just convenient and easy. So I think it's a good way of saying it, actually. Like you're creating that robustness within you of just like, I don't want to do it, but I'll do it because it's good for me. Yeah. You know, like again, it's almost like how eating well, isn't it? You know, you get in, but once you get into the habit of it, I can't not do it now. Like if I genuinely don't have a cold shower in the morning, you can start warm if you want and then bang it straight on cold. But I almost feel like I'm cheating myself, or that's not what I do. Yeah, I do cold showers, Jane. It's something like that. So I was thinking of ice baths. Is that different to cold showers or similar? Bit. Yeah, I mean, some people, there's all sorts of stuff now where it's like cold showers might be better for you than ice baths because of like thermal layers and all this stuff. When you sit in still water, you can create a bit of a thermal barrier. But look, I don't think it overly matters. Yeah. It's cold, right, Joanne? So I broke my little ice bath pod, to be honest with you, so I've had to go back to cold showers.
I remember our boiler broke at home. And rather than having cold showers, I went to David Lloyd's. So I went to the gym every morning.
Resourcefulness.
So our last question is about core values. Mm-hmm. Everyone, most businesses have them for their business. Are there any that you have personal to you?
I just think be the best version of yourself. Like be the best version of yourself. And if you're going to try and do that as a value, if that makes sense, then you're always going to do right by people. You're going to do the best you can in anything you put your hand to. And as a part of that, you just inevitably become a better person anyway. So I think, just ultimately speaking, I'd say like the value I try and live by is just be the best version of myself. If I was looking at myself, would I be proud of myself type thing? A little bit like that.
I think I read Atomic Habits by James Clear. Yeah. And his thing...
Got that book on the shelf. Haven't fully read it yet.
I really... I listened to it as an audiobook because I don't have the patience to sit down and read it as much. But one of the things he said is that if you want to be good at something, let's just say, going back to your basketball thing, if you want to be a good basketballer, you'd say to yourself, what would a great basketballer do? And so I suppose if you, by that statement, you'd be saying, what would the best version of Josh Scanlon be doing 100%, right now?
100%, because it's limitless and it's open as well, and it doesn't confine you in that, if that makes sense.
Especially if you're finding it hard to make a decision.
100%.
You're like, what would the best version of me do? Okay, that's probably the right one. Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah. I'm just thinking, my partner will probably be thinking, otherwise now to get about some of my decisions. But anyway.
No, but I mean, is that not the point? You can't be perfect.
No, thanks.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming today. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear from you. And I think our listeners are going to get some real value from you. So mate, thanks very much.
No, as long as it's helped. Brilliant to have provided some nuggets there, and no worries.
Let's go have a cold shower. Let's go.
Let's do it.
What a great conversation. Love that with Josh. And I think I was really surprised to hear about his school years where he was his parents were told that he wasn't gonna come to much maybe, and he was gonna get below average results. And to see the guy that we see now that's so confident, so educated on the industry, I think it's kind of amazing to see that the growth that he's gone through.
Yeah, I think if someone else had told me that story about told me that story and been like, guess who it's about, I'd never have ever thought it would have been Josh, just because of the way that he communicates and describes things, and kind of, I suppose, helps you understand the concept that he's trying to help you understand. Yeah, would never have ever thought that. So I'm loving these. I'm really getting to know people.
I think the mindset stuff was really important because even before the mindset question, everything he spoke about was mindset.
Yeah.
His outlook on his development, his outlook on his learning, his outlook on becoming the best version of himself.
Yeah.
This guy just sounds like he's got such a logical mindset. And, we all get too wrapped up in the emotions when it comes to results, right?
Yeah.
But it just seems like this guy is just so, he's got head screwed on and just about, give yourself some time, trust the process, follow the process.
Yeah.
But have, a fair expectation of yourself. So, I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, let's do it again, I think. It's great.
Thank you very much for listening to the Mentorprise podcast. We want to give some recognition to people that have made this happen. We want to thank Luke and the rest of his team at Access Creative College who have given us access to these fantastic facilities, and also to Edward Collis Films for all things to do with videography.